All right, welcome to lab number 1 of our course on generating an API proxy using the OpenAPI specification. And this lab's kind of target is basically just to wander around in the console UI, right? So a lot of things that are happening here that we haven't really talked about yet. So just kind of try to get familiar with what things really look like. So one of the things that we're going to need here is a Cloud Shell. I'm just going to quickly activate that for us. Yes, continue. And within Cloud Shell, what we need to do is download a OpenAPI specification that we have pre-manufactured. So the curl command is in here. And then we can basically open this up in the editor as well. There we go. This is it. All right, so this is what a OpenAPI spec looks like. I'm not going to use a lot of time to go through this, just kind of showing you that there are these paths. And then within the paths, we have the methods, and then we have things that are connected to these. Now, for the rest of the class, we're actually not going to be using these OpenAPI spec files directly. Rather, we're going to be editing things using the console editor, the part of the Apigee tool set. However, in production, you might want to use the OpenAPI specs to configure your API proxies, because that gives you the possibility of using an infrastructure as code approach instead of doing kind of imperative changes using the web console. So kind of consider using the web console during this course just to kind of to get to know what the different things really do and fool around, and then moving over to using infrastructure as code once we have gone towards a production-like environment. All right, so we're going to download this file. There we go, because we need to upload it later on into a different tool. So then let's get rid of this part, and go to the web console. So first of all, we need to go over to Apigee. And in my opinion, it's easiest to go directly to the correct page within Apigee. So the hamburger menu is not very good for this. So I would just kind of type in API proxy in here, and then I get directly the correct page that I'm actually looking for. All right, so here we can see that there is a pre-created Hello World proxy here. Instead of that, we're actually going to create a new proxy. So we're going to use the wizard for that, clicking on create. And then what we want to do is select the OpenAPI reverse proxy option. And this is a little bit funny because if you kind of press this drop down, you'd think that this is the reverse proxy that you're supposed to select, right? But in reality, this field here is scrollable, and you can actually see that there's another heading here called OpenAPI spec templates, and it's actually this reverse proxy that we're supposed to select here. Now that will open up this dialog that allows us to upload the OpenAPI spec that we just downloaded, right? So I'm gonna do that. And then get onwards. We have a couple of specifications that we need to set up here. One of the annoying things is that the proxy name does not allow for forward slashes, but we want the base path to have a versioned kind of structure. So we always need to basically exchange the dash or the hyphen here in the proxy name with a forward slash in the base path. And we can give it a description as well, like this. And it is targeting this existing kind of training API. So we don't have to worry about the backend in this case. Then we go next, and then here we can actually select the basically the paths, or in API in Apigee talk the flows that we want to include. So I'm just going to select all of them. And then we want to deploy this into an environment. The only environment we have available is the evaluation environment. So we're just going to use that one. Then we click on create, and this will take a while. Okay, now we see that it has been deployed, which is great. So I can remove this status from here. You can see here we have a green status check mark as well. So next up, we're going to take a look at the API development. So the way that we get there is by clicking on the Develop tab. And this basically gives us the same information that the OpenAPI spec gave, right? In Apigee, the actual definition of APIs is actually XML. So what the OpenAPI import basically does is it translates the OpenAPI spec into the Apigee specific configuration itself. And then here we can see the basically all of the different flows that are available, as well as the target endpoints. And we will be working with this later on, right? So for now, just kind of see that that does exist. Another tab that we have here is the debug tab that allows us to debug a live API. So we see what is coming in, what's happening, and maybe can figure out where a possible problem would be sitting at. We can start a debug session. It runs for 10 minutes by default at a time. And we can, when we do this, we could also add a filter that filters the incoming requests, you know, to not be overwhelmed with everything that gets here. So now that we have the debug running here, what we could do is actually call our API. So going back to the terminal here. So we can just use a curl onto this API test URL. You can actually see the URL over here as well. It's the same one. And we call the categories API in there. And then that gives us some feedback, right? So that's how it works. And now if we go back up here into the debugger, we can see that get request was here. It gave a return value of 200, and it used 600 milliseconds in total. Now we can select this. We just get rid of that. Oh, no. I was supposed to get rid of the left-hand side. You can't do that, can I? That's really annoying. Just don't have enough space in here. All right. So let's take a look at that transaction. There we are. So we can And sorry about the space here, right? So we can actually see how the request was handled, kind of step by step, and then we can select any of these steps and then see variables and other information related to that specific step as well, right? So that's kind of the idea here with this. There's also a kind of a time view down here at the bottom where we can basically move from step to step as well. Yeah, that's everything we have for this lab, and we're going to take a closer look at the tools that are available in the future labs as well. Thanks for listening, and see you in the next one.